Well, good morning. This is Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection.
Not Katrina.
Not Katrina. Joined by Adam Talley from Talley Insurance. You know what? This is the first time Katrina has not called in to stalk us when she's out of the area.
She did text me, though, during the last hour.
She did text you. Yeah, usually she calls in and stalks us. Usually tries to hijack a segment, which is always welcome to hear her voice on the radio.
In her defense, I texted her not long after I texted Pat George at 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep, so I had to get all my texts out.
Yeah, so we're dealing with a wire. Is this all coffee in here?
It is coffee, but I can and will fall asleep at any moment, so we're still on the clock.
Maybe you
here.
need some of that kilo of cocaine I was talking about last hour.
Jesus! So if you can get it on Etsy, I guess. Yeah,
Buy a kilo
I don't know how that
of
works,
Etsy.
but
so last hour we talked all about cyber crimes and how to keep your children safe, but I want to stick with family topics this morning. So I got two of my good friends in, and we got Jeremiah Jebavy from Jeremiah's Above Ground Pool Installation, and we have Larry Trianna from Challenger Pools, and I wanted to talk about how you got your children safe, you got them off the internet, you won't give them a cell phone anymore, so now let's give them something to do.
Just throw the cell phone in the pool
Throw
so
the
the phone dies,
well,
and
no,
now
phones are waterproof nowadays.
Oh, goodness.
So we got two different types of pools. We got above ground pools, that's Jeremiah's specialty, and we've got in-ground pools, and that's Larry's specialty. So my first question as an engineer, because we get asked to design pools all the time, is how big can my pool be? So what kind of, you both know the answer to these setbacks. So for an above ground pool, is there a setback that needs to be taken into account since it's mobile?
Explain what you mean.
Exactly, because it probably doesn't apply. So for an in-ground pool, you know what I'm talking about, right, Larry?
Yeah, correct.
For an in-ground pool, basically, I can't have a structure permanently in the ground so many feet from my neighbors, so many feet from utilities. So you basically just answered the question. It doesn't really factor in on an above-ground pool.
No, we do have to get some ordinances that'll require us to be 10 feet off the fence.
Okay, that's a setback.
That's about it, though.
Now, do you need a permit to put in an above-ground pool, or?
Most places, yes.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, you've got electrical hookups, you've got plumbing hookups, you still have all the components of a pool.
Listen, the last above-ground pool, we'll call it, that I was in was that blue plastic one you could get from Walmart in the early 90s.
When you were about 6 inches?
Probably 6 inches deep of water, and it did have a slide on it, though, which is very exciting.
Nice. So I'm very excited. Pool, we're coming out of summer, so now is the perfect time to actually build your pool because you don't have to compete with the rainy season. So I'm very excited about that. So let's just first start with how the two of you got into the pool business. So let's start with Jeremiah. How did you get into the above ground pool installation business?
I just kind of fell into it. I was up in Chicago helping my grandmother out before she passed away, and I didn't have much to do, and one of my friends needed some help building a pool, and then I ended up doing that with him for a couple years, and then he moved away, and I ended up taking over his crew and his sources of where he got the pool work from.
So you adopted a company, or you created? Because it says Jeremiah, so unless your friend was Jeremiah, I think.
No. Then there wasn't really a name on it. I was just working out of one company and did a few liners. People would call me off Craigslist and did a little bit here and there. When I ended up moving back down here to Florida, I started all up, and I wanted it to be professional. Awesome. And I got on to Home Advisor, and that really made a big, huge difference.
Nice. Yeah, because we use Home Advisor as well, and it's kind of like you get this lead. It might be garbage, it might be valid, but it's going out to 2 or 3 of your competitors at the same time.
Yeah.
So pretty much have to jump on those.
Yeah, with above ground pools, there's not a lot of competition, especially with my area, because I'll go to Ocala, Orlando, all through Tampa. Like some guys, they only stay in Spring Hill. That's close to where I live. But they won't go out to Orlando. And that's a big thing on the Home Advisor. Big areas, certain areas, they can't find anybody.
That's true.
Well, do you see certain areas, and this is probably a good question for both of you, but do you see certain areas where above-ground pools are more popular than the in-ground pools, or where above-ground pools can't even be? How does that work out? Where's your target demographic, so to speak?
I think it's more dollars and cents.
Okay.
Yeah.
That with a in-ground concrete pool now, to do just a pool on a deck, you're going to be 30 plus. So
And that's thousands of dollars,
That
not
is
Monopoly
correct.
money,
I was
right?
thinking 300, 300.
300.
Yeah, and the most expensive above ground pool is like 10,000. That's
Oh, wow.
that's a lot added.
And
to
that'd be
it.
like a real.
Yeah.
That'd be the whole deal.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
let's jump to Larry. How did you get started with Challenger?
Well, with Challenger, I came in there about 4 years ago. Happened to be looking on the internet and decided to look for a designing position, and it was a great fit. But actually, when I first started in swimming pools was 35 years ago. Back in 1981, I was my senior year of high school, and my father was a home builder, and decided to put pools on his houses. He had hired somebody that knew all phases of swimming pools, in-ground concrete pools, and every day I'd go out with him and kept a little journal and wrote down what we did, why we did it, and eventually, in a short period of time, I took over building the whole swimming pool. And through the years, I've done all phases of pool construction, from laying them out, digging them, steeling them, tiling them, plumbing them, all phases of decks, interior finishes. So very adversed in all phases of in-ground concrete swimming pools.
Nice. So I think Adam touched on it, but I want to hear the opinion of when you would do an above-ground pool versus when you would do an in-ground pool. And is it just really just a cost savings for the above-ground? Is that really the driving factor?
Like I mentioned to him earlier, I had some customers earlier this year. They wanted an in-ground pool, and they lived in the Bradenton area, but their water table was so high that it would have costed almost $100,000 for a small in-ground pool in their backyard, and they had a little yard. And then I ended up being able to do it for them at the cost that they were ready to pay. It was more. It was close to $10,000.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that, again, and even as Jeremiah is saying, the biggest thing is the cost factor. Most cases, and that's a unique situation. But again, 100,000 versus 10,000.
That's a lot of money.
Especially for something that we've learned through appraisers, you're not going to see a dollar for dollar return on when you go to sell your house. So spend wisely, spend smart, and then enjoy the pool, because you'll do that last minute kitchen reno when you get ready to sell your house, but you're not going to do that last minute pool installation.
That's true. Now I have a question for you boys, and it's I'm an insurance agent. I don't know if we caught that before you guys came in here, but so on every insurance application they ask, obviously, is the pool fenced or screened in or anything else like that, but they also ask, is there a diving board or a slide? So are you guys installing a lot of diving boards and slides these days, or is that a thing of the past now that it's more of a liability issue?
I don't think I've installed a diving board probably in the last 10 years, mainly because of insurance.
I know we have to be the bad guys sometimes. Yeah.
Slides, we usually do maybe 1 or 2 a year, but again, they've become the same kind of in the insurance eyes as a liability, and you see less and less of those. Where 20 years ago, we may do 2 dozen, 3 dozen of them a year, but now it's 1 or 2 a year.
Isn't the big thing grottos now?
Oh yeah, grottos are have become very popular.
What's a grotto?
Grotto's a rock type water feature. And we'll do them where they'll have what we call a love seat or a bench underneath them, and water will be spilling or cascading over top of them.
Oh.
Sometimes we'll put lights inside them that shine out from them. In fact, the last slide I did had a rock grotto with it combination, and you could go up, slide down, and swim up underneath the grotto.
Interesting.
That's interesting. So that means we're coming up onto our first commercial break. So if you're interested in learning more about an above ground or below ground pool, and you'd like to get a quote or speak with either Jeremiah or Larry, text the word pool to 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. Text the word pool and we'd be more than happy to hook you up with either of these two gentlemen so you can learn about your above ground or your below ground options. I have a ton of questions I want to ask when we come back from the break. Evan will probably have to rein me in. This is Kane with Barrel Engineering Inspection. We'll be right. I'm serious. I have a lot of questions. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, joined by my partner in crime, Leo Kane with Barrel Project Engineering and Inspections. And we are joined by two of the finest pool makers in the greater Tampa Bay area. We have Jeremiah Jebavy with Jeremiah's Above Ground Pool Installations, and we have Larry Trianna. Did I say that correctly?
You said it correctly.
Fantastic, with Challenger Pools. And we're talking all about pools above ground, in the ground, beside the house, behind the house, wherever you can put a pool.
So now
right?
I have to ask Jeremiah a question, because when I hear above ground pool, I'm thinking in my mind the up north movies above ground pool. They have to have the wooden slats. It's a circle. It's probably 10 feet in diameter. Circle with the wooden slats, 8 feet up in the air, ladder to walk in. Destroy my myth of what I think an above ground pool is.
It's pretty close. You can get really big with them. They get 30-foot round. Those are probably the biggest. The ovals look the biggest, but the round ones actually have the most square footage throughout the whole pool. You'll be able to fit more people in. But it's not really wood slats. It's a steel wall, galvanized wall. They do a lot of different coatings to fight rust and issues like that. Still would have basic ladders. Ladders can get elaborate.
Can you do a deck around it as well?
I don't do any deck work. Okay. I'm not a carpenter.
I
could build a deck, but I just wouldn't want to sell it professionally.
hey, you gotta know what you're good at, right? Like know your strengths and
I've
your
seen
weaknesses.
some awesome above ground pools that had a deck as well. So you come out onto your balcony, you walk up some steps, you got a beautiful deck, and then you've got a pool. If it wasn't for the fact you walked up some steps, you can't tell it's an above ground pool because of the way they just kind of seamlessly transitioned into it.
Yeah, and you can also sink the pool down. I do that. It's not my favorite thing to do. It's a lot of work. And also, like I mentioned earlier, the rust issue. The rust issue can be detrimental when you put it in the ground.
I have a question for you. How deep can above ground pools get?
Before they're in ground?
Do you mean?
Yes.
Do you mean in when you're in the pool swimming?
Yeah. Like what's the water depth on a? Like,
most of them are between 48 inches. The wall size is up 48 inches to 54 inches. You can dig out the middle, depending on if you get the right type of liner. You can get expandable liners and make them like 7 feet deep.
Okay.
But like you were talking about the diving boards earlier, that'd be a no-no on a above ground pool. There's no diving.
Yeah, so he's talking like 4.5 feet.
Yeah.
So something comfortable to stand in, maybe do a little splashy. But
Maybe a little water volleyball type of situation.
But I think it was Larry who said it earlier with the water tables. With how high the water tables are, it's really difficult to get a really deep pool here in Florida. I mean, you can. The cost just goes up.
Well, we do what are called well points, that we actually go in typically a week before and put pipes down into the ground, hook up pumps, and draw the water out of the ground. So when we dig the swimming pool, you're actually digging into dry earth. And then we'll put a rock bottom in it and be able to pull the water out at a later date when we go to do the interior finish in the swimming pool. But the industry really has kind of gone to a 5-foot depth as a standard depth, and it's really when you go any deeper than that, you really kind of start to lose your pool area because it's over most people's heads. And if you want to play volleyball, water polo, basketball, you really end up with a lot more pool when you stay 5 foot or less in depth.
And if you're swimming, you only need 2 feet, so you're good there anyway.
Yeah, so the industry really has kind of gone to a 3 to 5 foot as an average or standard in the in-ground market. Not that we don't do 6 and 7. Occasionally we may even do an 8, but it's very, very rare that we do an 8 or greater than that.
No, that makes perfect sense. They're easier to build, they're cheaper, and the pool area, like you get the full use. Because I remember back growing up, going to the community pools, and they had like the deep end that no one wanted to stand in, so we're all huddled in the shallow end doing our water volleyball and stuff like that.
I tell a story very similar that I recognized this many years ago, where my mother wanted a deep pool for my sisters, and again, whether it's 6 foot or 8 foot, it's over most people's head, and we had a big party. There was probably 30 people at one time in the swimming pool, and I had a video camera that evening. I sat down, watched the video, and realized that all 30 people were in the shallow end. You'd see one person occasionally floating on a raft down in the deep end, but really all the playing went on in the shallow end.
Unless you're diving in, there's really no point, right?
Absolutely not.
But actually, like this past weekend, I was actually in Belize, and they had a pool, infinity pool, and it had a deep end. And the only time any of us were in the deep end is when our floats, when we were sitting there, or when our beer cooler float actually floated into the deep end. We're like, I gotta go swimming. Because people just want to float, relax. They want to just lounge. I mean,
it's Florida. I think you just want to get out of the heat
That's
sometimes.
true.
You want to stand in there and not have to take on that immense heat that we have these days.
So we've got above ground pools, we've got in ground pools. I mean, the amenities, the fanciness. So for the above ground pools, you've just basically, here's your pool, here's your outside. You're not really making them fancy with rock gardens and things of that nature, or can you do that?
I haven't got into anything like that. That's something that interests me. I mean, the fact that you can get creative, like he was talking about earlier with the grottos, that's a pretty cool thing. I've had people sink their pools down and show me things like that they were going to do and build it up with the rocks so you couldn't even tell an above ground pool was there.
How fast can you get, let's permitting aside.
I was about to say install time.
Permitting
what kind
aside,
of difference are we
how
looking
fast
at here?
can we get an above ground pool in?
A round pool, typically a day. The ovals, depending on if we're running into issues in the ground, because there's a lot more digging and stuff with the ovals. But that's usually a day and a half, 2 days.
Oh, wow. So you start a summer, hey, I want a pool for the kids. Boom. Next week. You're sitting there.
Yeah.
Now, for you guys, especially if you have to draw out water before you start digging, what's that look like?
We have several inspections that need to be done along the way, but our construction schedule right now is running 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to have the city come out periodically. There's a whole list of them. They want to see the bonding, the steel set. They want to see the plumbing rough, the plumbing final, electrical rough, electrical bond, electrical final, and building final. So, I mean, you've got 8 inspections you need to do for an in-ground pool. And for probably your above-ground pool, you probably have 4 or 5.
No, actually, we don't have any.
Wow.
Sometimes after the permit, the county comes out and checks everything out, but I'm gone by that point.
Nice.
So easy. That makes things easy.
Very easy, very fast. So I could decide today I want a pool, and tomorrow it can be there.
I wonder if they have one in a rectangle shape that can go on my balcony, because that's
in a condo.
That's the only space I have. So can you do something in a 5x3?
We could do something with an air pump. You can inflate it.
We call those spas.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I could probably use a spa then.
Wow. So do you do any spa work as well?
No, I haven't got into that. Not yet, actually. The guy that I learned the pools from, he was getting into spas, and a couple of the sources that I work with, they do a lot of spa work. So it's something I thought about, but
those
too
are
much.
more just completely prefabbed. You got your fiberglass, you got your 4 or 5 different sizes, and they're pretty much all squares.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know. I never did anything with them, so I can't say how hard it would be.
Do you see, and this is more of a question for you, Larry, but do you see a lot of people wanting like that, where you have that built-in spa, hot tub, whatever, where it flows into the pool, that kind of stuff? With it being Florida, do you do a lot of those still?
We do a lot of pool spa combinations.
Those are always nice.
It creates a water feature in itself, and it just really depends on the person whether they're do a spa or not. Some people, like myself, I love to go in my spa every evening. Other people don't find any need for it. So I would say probably it's probably a 50-50 mix on whether it's just a pool only or a pool spa combination.
Well, the spa itself is great for like if you have back problems, if you have like tight muscles. I mean, you see it all the time. The sports athletes, or you hear about it all the time. The sports athletes, they're either in an ice bath or they're in a spa after they get the muscles all doing what they need to be doing.
They're in those cryo chambers too. Those are really interesting.
So what's the difference between a spa and a hot tub?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, words are interchangeable.
I told you I have lots of questions. Anytime, this is where I get all my trivia knowledge.
Well, I have a good question for you. And you talked about, we got spas and we got the grottos. What's like the most interesting and we'll do it when we come back because I can hear that lovely music that Pat's playing for us. But when we come back, I want to hear what the most interesting feature you've put in on a pool. So start thinking about that.
I want to hear about koi pond stories.
Koi pond. Oh, you do koi ponds too?
Oh, we do.
Interesting. Well, when we come back, we'll talk koi ponds, interesting water features, all the fun stuff. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. You can call or text 813-377-2775. Text pools, and we'll get you connected with Larry or Jeremiah. We'll be back shortly.
Yeah, I mean, and also we need our insurance tip of the week on pool insurance and things you need, safety features you need to have insurance on your pool. I think that's what we really should focus on. Break, and then we'll dive right back into pools. And dive. We'll be right back after the break. Thank you for listening to Tampa Home Talk. Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection, joined with Jeremiah Jebavy from Jeremiah's Above Ground Pool Installation and Larry Trianna from Challenger Pools. And now we're going to take a brief moment to talk insurance with Adam Talley from Talley Insurance. So I have a pool. How much higher is my insurance going to be? And what special features do I need to have on my pool to qualify?
Well, it needs to be fenced. So they're going to want, that depending on the carrier, they might say 4 feet, they might say 5 feet, but they're going to want either a locking fence or they're going to want the, a screened enclosure, something that can be locked so somebody from the outside can't walk into your pool and trip and fall and drown or anything else like that. Now, when it comes to insuring it, if it's like an investment property, you get into a little bit more expensive liability. But if it's your normal home, if it's an in-ground pool like what Larry does, it's actually with most of the carriers, it's increasing your dwelling cost. Okay, because they're considering that part of the house, so that's going to increase the cost it would be to insure your dwelling. Now, if it's like something like Jeremiah does, you're going to make sure that you're covered on other structures coverage because it's not actually a part of the house, but if something happens to it, you want to make sure you're covered there.
So basically, as long as my pool meets the 4 criteria, or it meets 2 of the 4 criteria for safety features, which is Florida Building Code, as long as I meet 2 of the 4 criteria, then I just get normal insurance.
Normal insurance, there's no problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, but what we do have happen is people will buy a brand new house and be like, I'm not going to put that pool in just yet. And then 2 years later, they're like, well, I got a pool. Now what do I do? And then you're going to want to, like I said, relook at that dwelling limit, that type of stuff. Also, when you're getting into the pool cages, like the aluminum screened enclosures, most of the carriers now are not covering the peril of wind.
Of course, because they're like wind magnets.
Yeah, well, and they're not going to cover the screen material anyways, regardless if they're going to cover wind. But you can always buy it back. But depending on the carrier, that's a little pricey. Yeah. So, it comes down to if you want to pay for it or not. But let's face it, that hurricane comes. That's the first thing that's gone.
Yeah. And then the second thing is the roof.
Anyway, I have a question, guys. Yeah, I have a question. My biggest problem is that when I go somewhere to have my water checked in my pool, they say, how many gallons or what is the size of your pool? And I can never get that measurement right. I looked at my plot plans when they built the pool, and it is not on that. I mean, the measurements are, but how many gallons is not?
How do I figure that out? I mean, if you know.
Yeah, well, my pool it's kind of like it's like an oval, but then it goes in a little bit and then it comes out again.
Is it above? Is it in?
Oh no, it's an in-ground pool.
If you only knew an engineer who knew calculus.
I was about to say, Pat, that's a math problem.
Maybe I better have Adam Talley come over, or somebody over there.
Yeah, there's a formula for figuring it out. On a rectangle, it's length times width times average depth times 7.3. And that will give you your how many gallons you have in the swimming pool.
You can't see it, Pat, but this is the first smile I've seen on Leo's face all day. He's just really happy about the math hour that just happened. He loves equations, and he was checking his math like in his head on Larry. He's like, "Yep, all right, Larry knew this."
Well,
one.
I know that my pool is guesstimately it's 30 by probably 30 by 12, 30 by 14. So I guess I better get Leo to come over there. I know you probably touched on this, but what is the average cost, if there is, of just an in-ground pool that's about that size nowadays?
Well, for an in-ground concrete pool and average size with a deck, you're going to probably be around $30,000 plus. So you add a screen enclosure, that's probably going to add at least another $7,000-8,000 to a pool. So a pool, deck, screen, you're going to be in probably the low 40s to start with, and then it only goes up from there depending on options and features that you want to put on the swimming pool.
Let me ask you this from a cost-saving standpoint. Is it cheaper to make a block pool, which is using CMU building blocks, or is it cheaper to put up your wood forms and pour it solid?
I would say put up your wood forms and pour it solid. That's really old school. Talking about using CMUs or concrete.
We see it all the time. We want to design it. We want to design the pool using poured concrete, and they're like, no, they want to use block because they think it's cheaper.
Yeah, not in our side of the industry. I mean, there may be people out there that are able to do it for less, but not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I just like it better when it's poured solid.
Now, do you think are most pools, are they getting that pool cage on top, or is it not like the screen enclosure? Or no?
That's about a 50-50 mix on screen and versus not screen. Just probably 10 years ago, the majority of them, probably 80-90%, were all screen, but more and more people are choosing the option of either fencing or whether it be an aluminum fence or a baby barrier type fence around the pool instead of a screen enclosure. It's always been a kind of a pet peeve of mine. I like being outside without a screen enclosure when I'm swimming. I love screen enclosures. I think they have their places, whether you want to have your food or something protected from bugs and such. But I love being outside when I'm swimming, and the pools are a little bit more work, but there are features, self-cleaning systems that the pools can practically almost take care of themselves anymore versus have to being out there and manually doing things all the time.
I just don't want to get all those leaves out of the pool. That'd be my biggest.
We've got a cleaning system that has a lifetime warranty on it with a 99% clean guarantee that every morning you get up and look at your pool, it's going to be clean.
Really?
And so in an open pool...
Well, 99% of it will be clean.
Yeah. We have these big...
I only care about 99% work.
Hey, when you get 10,000 leaves falling, that's 100 leaves in your pool.
and that happens, in certain site conditions, but they have these canister systems that have huge bags in them that will collect a lot of debris with the drainage, the main drains that are put in the bottom that will allow that large debris to be taken out of the swimming pool so that you're not out there fishing that stuff out.
I got another question about someone just came in the studio here and they want to put a pool in their house, but they have a well.
Oh.
Okay. There's typically they're going to be on a sequestering agent, which will remove the metals from the water so that they don't fall out when you oxidize the water, so that you don't get staining on the pool. You start up the pool with that sequestering agent, and then anytime you add water, they'll put a couple ounces in the pool to just allow that to be filtered out.
But who's going to fill that pool up if they're on a well? You could drain their well, can't you?
No. It shouldn't drain their well. I'm not going to say it may not be able to happen, but the biggest thing that hurts wells is you've got to have multiple hoses going. Wells can run and run and run. What hurts a well is turning on and off when they're constantly circulating. That will cause them to get hot and burn up the pump itself.
Mm-hmm. Now we were talking a little bit off air. Since we're talking about the different types of water, dive into the salt water. You said you see a lot of salt water these days too?
Saltwater pools that people like to call is still chlorine in a swimming pool, but you're actually making chlorine for the pool rather than going out and buying chlorine.
How does that work?
Well, salt is basically sodium and chloride put together, or potassium and chloride put together. So you're separating the metal from, which is the sodium, from the chlorine.
Water, as you know, is H2O. Salt's NaCl. Cl is your base of chlorine. So through an electrolysis, it changes the ions around and creates chlorine. When you go out and buy chlorine, because chlorine in essence is a gas, something has to be done to it to put it into a liquid or a solid state. Those big yellow jugs that you see people carry out of the store is only 12% chlorine. The rest is junk or inerts. The tablets or the granular that people call shock.
I like the tablets. You put it in a little duck. The duck floats around. You float around and avoid the duck because you don't want to get burned.
Yeah, well, those are only 65% chlorine. The other 35% is junk or inerts. And once you introduce those inerts to your water, they become what are called chloramines. Chloramines are what causes the smell, causes the irritation of the eyes because they have a high pH factor, will cause dry skin. If a woman has color in her hair, it can cause it to turn green. So if you eliminate those inerts, you eliminate those problems because chlorine in essence is odorless. It has a neutral pH like the saline solution in your eyes, and it's a soft water because it's derived from salt. So in cost savings, you go out and buy chlorine for a pool. And this is one of the big selling features of it. You're going to spend $300+ a year. That's a fact. When you make chlorine, typically you're going to spend $30 a year. You're going to use 2 to 3 bags of salt a year. A bag of salt's about $5. The power supply is low voltage. It uses less than $15 a year in electricity. So,
are we talking kosher salt or table salt?
You want to use a 99% pure. Typically, they're in yellow bags. Whether it be granular.
Oh, I love that pink Himalayan stuff.
Whether it be granular or pellet salt, the granular is going to dissolve quicker into the pool, and you're putting that directly into the swimming pool. Pellet's probably going to take 15, 20 minutes to dissolve into the swimming pool, but either one will do the same thing.
Hey, before we take the break here, because the music's going to start in a minute, the well question is still up in the air. They said, the water table had to be drained to put a pool in, but if he has a well, isn't that like having a water table?
Well, the well water is typically going to be a lot deeper than the water table. I mean, you're not drinking water that's only 6 foot into the ground. So
yeah, we typically find that wells are between 60 and 80 feet for normal people's houses. Drinking water wells, municipal ones, might go down to 800 to 1,000 to 1,200 feet, but you're at 60, 80 feet minimum going down to get to your drinking water on your yard wells. So if your water table is somewhere between 6 and 15 feet, you're already much further down from that higher water table. You have to think of it from a geological standpoint. You've got rivers running underground at different depths. We all know that there's different soil levels depending on how old the soil is and different layers. So you just have rivers under there as well. So he's talking about the top river, the drinking well that you're worried about. That's the next river down. So you're good.
Wow. I think, Pat, to make things simple, we can just put a tarp in the back of my pickup truck and fill it up with water, and we'll have a mobile pool. I think that keeps things nice and easy.
And if you'd like to either have Adam's mobile pool in detailing, you can text Adam's mobile pool to 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. When we come back from the break, let's talk koi ponds and more above-ground pool features that you can have during our last segment of a very exciting and educational hour of Tampa Home Talk.
I feel educated.
Yes. Love Where You Live or We're Gonna Fix It has never shown truer than this show, where you can add pools, any pool to fit any budget. I sound like that Kia commercial guy, don't I?
Yeah.
Any pool to fit any budget. Here
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. We'll be back right after the break.
And good morning. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, joined by Leo Kane with Barrel Project Engineering and Inspections. And we're talking all about pools today We have Jeremiah, which is our main man for the above ground pools, and we have Larry with Challenger Pools, and that's going to be all of your in-ground pool services. And I think Leo really, really wants to know about these koi ponds. So
Yes,
let's
koi
dive into the koi ponds so
let's
we make sure we cover it before we're out of time.
Jeremiah, a lot of koi ponds are above ground. They're not going to be as big and as round as a whole swimming pool, but they could get pretty elaborate in their shape. So you do koi ponds, right?
No, I don't. I haven't done. We built a pool for somebody to move their koi while they were having a koi pond built. That was about it.
Larry?
Yeah, we've done some koi ponds, and typically we kind of work hand in hand with somebody that is familiar with fish. So we build the structure, and they do the filtration system for them.
So why, of all the fish, I guess they're just colorful goldfish, but why the koi carp has taken off as the fish to have a pond for?
That's a great question that I don't really have a good answer for you. It seems like that's really the only fish pond that you see. The only other fish are typically going to be in an aquarium. Not so much. I don't know if it's the size, the colors, but
You get some pretty elaborate colors on koi fish.
yes, you do.
If I had a choice, I'd want to get like a small size shark, 3 feet tops.
A nurse shark?
Yeah, maybe not nurse. Those get pretty big, but that's what I would want in a pond. Like just something that you see the little fin come up. I think that'd be exciting. Really thrill the guests.
How about a baby shark?
Yeah, baby shark. But
Maybe we can hook you up with our friends at the Tampa Aquarium, and we have Florida Aquarium, and we can see what we can do for you.
they're right down the street. I like that.
Yeah, we'll contact the Florida Aquarium. Eric, if you're listening, reach out to us. Adam wants to get a pet shark for his above-ground pool.
Maybe I just want to pet a shark. How about that?
Oh, petting a shark, that's easy. Just go to the Florida Aquarium.
Perfect.
You can pet a shark, you can pet a stingray, you can pet a jellyfish.
Now stingrays and sharks, they're in the same family, though, right? So
They're
is
in the
that
same
kinda
tank.
same? Oh, okay.
Sounds like we need to have the aquarium people back
We
on
do.
here.
We need
Yeah,
to have the
definitely.
aquarium people here. Anyways, back to the pools.
Back to the pools. So, are you guys, now that we're coming out of summer, Jeremiah, are you running any specials right now in above-ground pools?
There are a few pools that are slashed in price. I'm on my slow season, so I'm usually willing to work out a deal with anybody. Just have to talk to me about it.
And are you running any specials right now? Post-home show specials?
For this month only, we are giving away a free salt generator on our swimming pools.
Nice.
Year round, we never really slow down. Ideally, this becomes now the best time to get started on an in-ground concrete swimming pool. First, you got to go through the permitting, which is typically can last as long as it takes to build a swimming pool, 8 to 10 weeks, and then you've got now you're coming out of the rainy season, so you don't have to deal with the rain. So ideally, right now is the ideal time to get started, so that you have a full swim season for next year. And we have so many people come in June, July, and want a swimming pool. Well, by the time they get completed, it's going to be November.
That's next year's pool.
So
Unless they go to Jeremiah.
Yeah,
unless they go to Jeremiah,
what's
then
tomorrow's
What's
pool.
your bread and butter size pool? Like,
Like the average sizes?
Yeah.
I would say between 18 and 27 round. Those are the average
Is
sizes.
that diameter or radius?
That's the radius. That's the round pool. And then there's an oval pool.
wait, circumference or diameter?
Now you got me confused.
Circumference.
You're talking
would be
side to side.
Side to side or around the rim?
Around the rim.
Okay.
And
So pizza sizes.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Then there's the oval pools that they typically run like 12 by 24 is the average size. They get up to 18 by 33 for one of the bigger sizes. I've seen huge ones where they connect double walls on the pools and get crazy, but I usually don't do those. That's very rare.
Now, question for you. You said you're based out of Spring Hill, but you cover the entire Tampa Bay area, right?
Yeah, actually, it's Lando Lakes. I cover all the way down to Venice.
Oh, wow. You'll go pretty far then.
Yeah, out to Orlando, up to Ocala.
How about you, Larry?
well, we're based out of Tampa, and we do about an 80-mile radius. So we just touch into
Orlando.
Citrus County, Pasco, Hernando, Pinellas, Hillsborough. Polk, we go out to about Lakeland, kind of 27 is where we cut off there, to Manatee County. So we cover a pretty big geographical area.
Yeah, when you got the heavy machinery and you're doing the digging and stuff, you really need to have local subs that you can trust, and you need to have more supervision.
You need your crew, right?
You need your crew. You need your crews, so you can't go as far as the above ground entrance. which is
Yeah, it's
really
mostly just me. I pack up my truck and go, and I don't have to have. He's probably got like 10 guys that work for him at least.
Well, then when you
doing
got to
each
pull
pool.
permits, you need to at least be familiar with the permitting process in all those areas too.
Well,
right?
what I do like with the new Senate Bill 7103, the permitting process has gotten streamlined this year as of July. They really, the state has stepped in and really forced the counties and cities to go onto a more streamlined approach, a more uniform approach, especially allow the use of third-party private provider for inspections. So I'm really happy the state did that this year.
Are you a third-party
Of course.
provider? Of course you are.
We
I
can
love
replace
that.
them on plan review. We can replace them on field inspections.
I mean,
They're just too busy.
typically we're in 23 municipalities, so because some of the counties within the county, the cities have their own municipality that you have to build a permit for. And earlier you asked the question about setbacks and easements, and
Those all change.
those can be different from city to county.
And I'm sure Pinellas is Pinellas a mess since it has 13 different municipalities.
That has quite a few municipalities. Some places will let you get within 3 feet as long as there's not any drainage or utility easements. Some won't let you get within 10 feet of the property line.
So again, you heard some great specials that were announced. If you need to get a hold of Jeremiah for above ground pools or Larry for in ground pools, make sure you text 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. We can get the right pool for you, either above ground or in ground. We can get them as inexpensive as around $10,000 or as elaborate as $100,000 with marble decking and 20 feet deep and everything else. If you can imagine it, we can build it. We being them, because I don't do construction.
Do they resurface pools real quick before we leave the show? The caller just asked.
Yes, we do.
So you resurface. That's
Yes, we have a remodeling division.
Nice. And you resources using a Crete product and not a Marsite.
Marsite is a thing of the past. I don't know of anybody that's using that anymore. It's a crushed marble product, but really we're only doing stone finishes anymore.
Nice. Well, it's been a very interesting hour. I loved all the technology we talked about. I loved all the science we got to share. Our first hour, we got to share scary topics, but you got to know about
Important topics,
You
though.
have to protect your children.
Absolutely.
And after they're protected, the best way to keep them off the internet
Throw them in the pool.
is to throw them in a pool. It has locking go back to The Sims where you put the fence around the pool and I can't get out. Not that level. But yeah, this has been an exciting hour. This is Adam Talley with Leo Kane. We've got a great hour. Remember, love where you live, or we're going to fix it. See you next week.
Love it. Have a great
The
weekend.
preceding program was